Why does the black man serve the white man? Why does everything the black man do benefit the white man? Why does the black man say freedom is doing what I want to do? And why is it that everything he wants to do enriches the European?
Welcome to the desert of the real.
Peace, family. This is your brother, Mr. Holipsism. I want to bring in my co-host for tonight, Mr. Neo. Are you there?
I'm here, brother. Good evening.
There you go. Good evening. The title of today's show is The Black Panther, Wakanda, and Afrikstan. First, we want to give you a little background on Wakanda and the Black Panther. Wakanda is a fictional nation appearing in the American comic books published by Marvel Comics. It is the home to the superhero Black Panther. Wakanda first appeared in Fantastic Four number 52. That was in July of 1966. It was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. The name is evokes the name of the Wakamba tribe of Kenya. This is a little brief history. After the vibranium meteor fell into Wakanda, a number of Wakandans were painfully mutated into demon spirits and began attacking their fellow Wakandans. T'Challa's ancestor, Bashenga, became the first Black Panther and closed the vibranium mound to outsiders, forming a religious order that guarded the mound and fought to keep the demon spirits from spreading across the kingdom. The Black Panther is a ceremonial and religious title given to the chief of the Panther Tribe. As part of the cult ceremonies, a chosen Black Panther is entitled to use of a heart-shaped herb. The herb enhances the physical attributes of the person who consumes it to near-superhuman levels, similar to the super soldier serum. Wakandan technology has, until recently, developed an entirely independently of that of the rest of the world. As such, the design philosophies and methodologies are different and often incompatible with the conventional equipment. In some areas, Wakanda is ahead of the rest of the world. Wakandan computer technology is much more powerful than that of the rest of the world and is completely immune to outside hacking. It is not based on binary electronics. It can, however, emulate the behavior of such electronics at hugely enhanced efficiencies, allowing it to easily hack almost any conventional systems. Vibranium was used liberally in Wakandan tech, but the recent destruction of all vibranium has forced the large-scale redesigns. If you want to learn more about that, I got the source from Marvel.com Universe. Just look it up. So, brother,
yes.
We got to be careful because not everybody has seen the movie. So we gotta keep it spoiler free if we can.
Oh man, I was actually gonna start off with saying there may be a few spoilers, but we could do our best.
So, what is your take on Wakanda, like from the movie that you saw? Like, what did you take away from that?
Well, not only from the movie, but with everything you just read. I mean, of course, I just recently seen the movie yesterday. I was late to the party, and when I've seen what I've seen of Wakanda and the tech that Black Panther uses, sorry for spoiler alert, I automatically thought about what we represent, what we want with respect to the BAIO, particularly as it relates to the mastery of the STEM fields. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is a STEM show. Usually Holip and I, we host the STEM show programs for the BAIO initially. But automatically, that's where my mind went. when I remember we did, I think, what was it, 2 shows ago, we did a show called STEM Society, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
How would Afrikstan look relative to it being a STEM society? And if for those who've seen the movie, who've seen sort of the little bit past credit scenes, that's kind of what we envision in the BAIO with respect to being the type of society that we kind of want. I have to give Marvel credit where credit is due. They did an excellent job in terms of portraying Wakanda and Black Panther in a very respectable light, especially after everything you read. You have to give Stan Lee tons of credit, being that this comic book came out in 1966, and it held Black people to such high esteem, especially Black Africans in such esteem at that time. Mind you, this was the time when sort of the revolution was sort of beginning. This is when Malcolm, Elijah Muhammad, Martin Luther King, all those other influences, when amongst African Americans was taking root and really starting to catch fire. So I, found it very impressive how Stan Lee was able to sort of be ahead of his time and actually put that kind of vision out there with respect to African people. Of course, we have to give credit to Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey had this vision long before Stan Lee did. In fact, when we spoke on the phone this morning, I had a joke saying Stan Lee probably read Marcus Garvey and probably got the vision of the idea from a Black Panther from sort of what he was doing. But, it goes back to what we were saying before, I think in the previous show, or was it After Hours, when we was talking about how relevant entertainment is when communicating the message of nationhood, communicating the message of an empowered nation or a STEM excellent nation.
Mhm. And without, like I said, I'll try not to give any spoilers away, but Black Panther in the movie, his motivations for being on a certain side really have nothing to do with the main ideological rift between Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. His is more personal.
Yes.
And he has his own agenda. It has really, like, he's ends up falling on Team Iron Man's side simply because of the circumstances. But he really has no stake in their personal ideological beef or difference. And so I like that part too. It's like he had his own agenda throughout the film.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely important, especially for those of us who are sort of in the mindset that we're in now, where particularly those of us who belong to the BAIO and BAIO-like organizations, where we really just want to do us and really try to sort of stay out of sort of the happenings and the goings-ons of the civilization around us or the dominant society around us. And I think that's absolutely an important message to communicate. We spoke earlier about the recent presidential election, and I was saying how I really don't care which way it goes because it doesn't, it affects us, but, it's going to be what it's going to be. It's always been like that. I mean, right now we're at the point where we're so focused on doing us, it's that, we kind of sort of got that out of our mind. And that was another important thing that Black Panther's character sort of communicated throughout the movie. Well, I'm not trying to give anything away. He also wasn't, what I love, that he wasn't the kind of sort of save the day, stop the infighting kind of Negro kind of person, basically, who wants to basically create the peace between the sort of white folks. No, he basically had his own agenda, and he did what he had to do.
Right.
And that was also extraordinarily important. Another thing I want to say about Wakanda, the nation, as it was presented in the movie, trying not to give spoilers, of course, but what I loved about them, and you read this before, that they were a relatively reclusive nation, but at the same time, they were able to rival the other nations of the world technologically simply by, being themselves, believing in themselves, and, sort of having a technological and science-based culture. And that's something I've been religiously hammering home on these broadcasts, the importance of having a science-based African pride culture. And I think it's been absolutely well communicated in that movie, the implications of having that. And, 2 years from now, when the actual Black Panther movie comes out, I think we're going to be able to really, these types of broadcasts, particularly STEM-related mastery, STEM field type broadcasts as it relates to Pan-Africanism are going to be absolutely much more popular in the coming future.
Right. I agree. Like, and me and you were saying, like, I don't think with the message that we at the BAIO are putting out and this whole concept of land, infrastructure, nationhood, I don't think Marvel really truly comprehends how powerful a message they're going to send out when they introduce the Black Panther and Wakanda, like when he gets his solo movie and they dig even deeper into how that society is structured.
Exactly.
Because like I was saying, one of my favorite parts of the movie, and this is not really a spoiler, but they showed his female guard.
Yes.
And his female guard, like Black Widow was in front of his limo, basically blocking him getting in it. And his female guard walked up to Black Widow, like face to face, and said, "Move or be moved."
Exactly. I mean, that she pretty much sums up the power of Black womanhood. Especially when when it comes to defending a head of state that's representative of a nation that empowers her. And that's another thing that was also very important that we discussed here on our BAIO shows is like, how does a modern nation state, particularly one geared towards the empowerment of Black people, specifically addresses the issues pertaining to women there? And that's one of the things I think we have been absolutely distinguishing ourselves on is how, the role women will play in our nation. Basically, we said, if they can get the job done, they got the job pretty much. We are absolutely probably one of the few groups, Pan-Africanist groups, who actually are not going to go, we're not going to go over the top and go to the whole Black woman as God worship thing. But no, we understand the importance of that women play, particularly when developing a modern civilization, the importance that educating women have, the importance of, the making sure that everyone can reach their full potentials with that respect. But, that was a great scene for the movie. Another one that struck me, it's not really a spoiler, but how he sort of trails Tony Stark after the sort of the prison scene. I'm not going to give away any specifics, but, these kind of things left out to me as someone who is an enthusiast of modern technology and advanced technology, of how, this man and his nation just displayed such great competence in these fields. In addition to that, how Wakanda, generally an isolated nation, but how it chose to go about in the world and what nation it first chose to send its envoys to. Surprise, surprise, it's not the United States or any European nations, but these kind of things. And it was just like, indicative of everything we speak about with respect to how, when we discuss the BAIO, what kind of nation we're going to have. It was just absolutely amazing with that respect.
I mean, I was really impressed. And like I said, the new movie is going to be directed by, is it Ryan Coogler? That's his name?
I think so. I have to look into it. I'm not really sure. It was the gentleman who did Fruitvale Station, right?
Yeah, he did Fruitvale Station, and he did the last Rocky movie, Creed.
Yes.
I didn't see Creed, but I did see Fruitvale Station, and I was very impressed by that. And from what I can tell, people who saw Creed said that was an impressive film as well.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys are fans of the Black Panther. Like Chadwick Boseman has said he's been secretly campaigning to be the Black Panther for the longest. He said he never thought that it would actually happen, but he said that was his dream. And
well, he did a great job playing him. I give you that much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so interesting. I mean, that we are here talking about this film at this point. It's like, it's kind of like sort of like, I don't know, the planets converged on this very moment. And when I wanted to go back to what you were saying, how sort of Marvel does, I don't know if they had an idea in terms of when you put out this kind of message for Black people, because I don't think, because we are a small organization, a lot of people don't know we exist, but it's very strange to think that they are going to be, a company like Disney may be the unwilling or sort of the mistaken catalyst to actually driving tons of interest to this philosophy. And I find that to be absolutely fascinating. With respect to Ryan Coogler, the director of Black Panther, I think that movie is going to be absolutely well done, and it's going to really respect the philosophy that he represents. And I think we're going to really be impressed with it. But in addition to that, we was discussing before last week, we were particularly about Black comic books and Black the importance of comic books in entertainment with respect to this message. You and I, we religiously sort of go to the Black Comic Book Festival that's held in the Schomburg Library every year here in New York City. There are other Black comic book artists like Wayne Riley, who produces the Hardwire series. I recommend you guys pick it up. I have like all the issues of it where it also displays an African civilization that is highly advanced in technology. So I find this to be absolutely fascinating. It's not just Marvel, even though Marvel is the biggest name in the business, but I find that it's absolutely fascinating and wonderful that there are so many people out there who are putting Black science fiction out into the forefront. I mean, this is absolutely critical with respect to building a STEM society, especially a Black STEM society. As I mentioned before, we were talking about Star Trek and NASA, and they was talking about the influence that Star Trek had on development of NASA, and they asked a lot of the rocket scientists there, how many of you were influenced by Star Trek? And everybody raised their hand. Well, I postulate that there's no reason why. If you look into the future and you have sort of the nation state that we want to build, and you ask the early engineers and designers who basically will lay the groundwork for the education system and the infrastructure of our nation, well, how many of you were influenced by, let's say, series like Hardwired or the Black Panther? I would be very pleased to have them pretty much all raise their hands, because this show, this particular broadcast we're doing tonight, this not merely talks about the importance of STEM, the mastery of STEM for African people, but it shows the importance of the art culture, how it triggers an interest in the mastery of STEM. Because the scientists and engineers and mathematicians we're going to need for the future are probably not even, out of grade school yet. So if we can get them this young, get them this interested, and when they get to, undergraduate and past their graduate level education, they would not only have it in their mind that they're going to be the best scientists and engineers in the world, but they're going to be a group of scientists and engineers who are going to work towards the betterment of their people. So I find this, the whole thing, everything going on, to be absolutely fascinating, and it's quite, a breath of fresh air from, the morose that we've been dealing with for the last 5 years.